All right, so we're going over Francois Tardieu's book, Backgammon Strategic Concepts, which has a lot of great problems in it, and some good explanations from the author, and some not so great, but the problems are still good, even if the explanations are difficult. And the reason sometimes the explanations aren't so great is because it's a difficult problem. It's usually the case. Here, however, is one from Grant Hoffman of New Zealand, who doesn't get to these events because it's probably like 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what it is in New Zealand, but he does look at the videos. And I had mentioned once that if you have 3 checkers on your ace point, that you really need to move them. And that I had not seen a situation where if you had 3 on your ace point, that it wasn't right to move them. And so he sent me this problem, or this example. He had found one in his store of saved up problems. And it's interesting. This is what you do with plus plus. And do it at plus plus. And so I would still say that this is slightly wrong, slight error, but however, this is the right play by a little bit. And this is the alternate play, which is also splitting. But he did a rollout of this. And I don't know, just to come up with one that was different. And it turns out that actually not moving your back checkers is right here by a little bit on the rollout. I don't know how many rollouts he did. Oh no, 5,184 games rolled out with fair introduction, whatever that means. So here was an example where you don't necessarily have to split or have to move a back checker with 3 on the ace point. To which I would say, good for Grant. Thank you, Grant, for finding that one out. And but I'll still go by the rule of if I have 3 checkers on the ace point, I'm going to move one of them somewhere. Because if you do, that's the second best move, and that's the third best move, and it's not a very big error. Even this one is not a big error. You can't go too far wrong by moving a back checker if you have 3 on your ace point, even if it's not necessarily the best move by rollout. So anyway, thanks to Grant for that one. Very unusual situation though. All right, back to the book. Here's a problem, well, it's common, but a difficult problem with I think a good explanation that might be helpful. So what's the first thing I think that we would do here, or you should do? With
Make the
double
4
ones?
point.
Yeah, make the 4 point. That that should be the right thing to do. One of the things a lot of these problems in the Tardieu book shows is that when you have the 5 point, making the 4 point is extra strong, and you often go to great lengths to make 4 point, even giving up some shots and things like that, just to make that, because that 4, 5, and 6 point is a very strong combination. Also, just from
even though you're giving up making.
Well, I'm sorry, Ray, what?
I was going to say, yeah, but the alternative is to make the bar point.
Yeah. And so yeah, and for why would you make the 4 point over the bar point?
Well, you're going to tell us that.
Okay, well, a lot of people make the bar point, on these situations, and I think it's mostly going away, but the 4-point is better. If you remember the points priority idea, which was in Michi's opening concept. I made a bigger deal out of it than Michi did, but it's, it's the 5-point is better than the 4-point is better than the bar point. So just by, you want to make the better point. And that's usually the case. Sometimes it's not, because you are blocking black 6s, and so there's strength there. There might be certain situations where you wouldn't do that, but it's almost always the case that you make the 4-point over the bar point. So let's do this. And now you have an ace to play. And so what's it going to be? You can either basically split or slot the bar point. And so whenever you're going to split, you want to consult the splitting rules. At least that's my approach to it. And so we look at that, the splitting rules are, okay, you've got a sign to split. What are the signs to split? Well, you're well blocked. So that's a sign to split. And usually a pretty good sign to split. Do you have signs to not split? And what are those? Well, your opponent hasn't split. In fact, your opponent is still on the ace point. So that indicates that you're not really that much of a hurry. If black had split or black had made an advanced anchor, then you would be more inclined to split here. Also remember Mochi's ideas about priming formation versus blitzing formation. This big stack of checkers here is a blitzing formation, which suggests that you don't want to split into it, because basically he's got to do something, and he's likely, if you give him a chance to hit, that's probably the best thing that he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I should have mentioned a sign to split was the stripped 8-point, and really just stripped bar point, because then if he's going to hit you, he's got to break the point.
Also, 11 in the zone is a sign to not split.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Yeah, 11 in the zone is just another sign to not split, because you're subject to attack here. So all this leads to what? Lots of signs to do different things, and it doesn't help really much at all. So any guess what's the right thing to do here? Given that I've already told you, you need to make the 4-point.
8-7. 8-7?
Yeah, 8-7. Okay, what would be the advantage of that? And
Well, you could possibly cover that on the next roll.
right. Well, that would give you the prime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any strong opinion as to which is the right play? Or a weak opinion?
I was going to say split until you ran through the rationale, and I think it's too dangerous to split. So I agree with the 8-7.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and that is the right answer. It is to slot the bar point. And this is a case where I think the explanation from the book is very helpful, and we didn't talk about it because it's it falls kind of deeper down into the list of things that we would look at. But I think the right reason, best explanation here to slot the bar point is the fact that we're behind in the race by 17 pips. And so there are a couple things, a couple of general ideas. The bold safe idea, we're behind in the race and we have the better board. We'd want to play boldly. Boldly in this case would be slotting a point that we'd like to make. And then, because if we get hit, all right, we're now 20 some odd pips behind.
And plus, if we get hit, we have a good chance of making an advanced anchor.
Yeah, we can make an advanced anchor. Black doesn't have much of a board. We don't really have to worry that much about coming in. Unless black rolls a 6-5, black might leave a shot, in which case we can, we have an opportunity to counter hit. with the better board. So those things. The other thing too that I think is more important, I found more interesting, more important, was the fact that our game plan here, since we're down in the race, the best game plan if you're down in the race is really priming, because being down in the race is better actually for the priming strategy. So this play, if you're not hit and you can make the bar point, you're probably looking at a cube, and it's probably a pass. So while there's risk involved here, the reward here is pretty high. If you can get away with it. And again, the consequences of getting hit here, are not great. You'd rather not get hit. You'd rather make the bar. You'd rather make the prime. But if you are hit, you shouldn't be in that. It shouldn't be that terrible. You should be able to come in. You might hit back. You still have the better board. You should be able to make an advanced anchor at some point. So I like to read the summary from these, because it's sometimes helpful. And so this one says, the summary here is: timing is the ability to play one or more roles without sacrificing any of your structure. When you're behind in the race and have a timing advantage, look for and or try to create prime versus prime positions. So that that one I would say is more of a that's a useful explanation. But again, it starts with knowing, I think, that you've got to make the 4-point here, and that's really your first priority, is making the 4-point. In fact, not making the 4-point, anything that doesn't make the 4-point here is a blunder. So the first thing is make the 4-point, and then see that sliding the bar is better than splitting in this case. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, so here we've got to come in. So do we want to come in on the 2 or the 5 or the 5-point?
Well, Michi says if the opponent has an advanced anchor, you need one. Counter advanced anchor with an advanced anchor.
Yeah,
But I think we got to risk it.
risk it being coming in on the
Going
5,
on the 20
on the 20. Yeah,
and then moving up.
yeah.
So even if you get hit, you can maybe make the 22.
And you're coming in bar 20, 24, 22.
Yeah, with hopes to making one of those two.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other
I
thoughts on
think
that?
you're going to be doubled after either play. And will you take?
Yeah, probably. Good point.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. So, okay, and that is the right move, is to come up with 2. Now, what other clues are there that this is the right move? Certainly. Well, why isn't, say, this one coming in? What's wrong with coming in at the 23-point? You're
Your
under
6
less
is blocked.
pressure from attack.
Your 6 is blocked. You can't get out with a 6.
That's right. You're well blocked. That's a good, yeah. That's certainly part of it.
Mhm.
Your 6s are blocked, so you haven't, and Michi has a proverb. Look for a good 6, or I forget what the actual proverb was, but
right.
yeah.
And Dirk, in his book, latest 2-hit or not hit, says don't voluntarily put yourself behind a prime, a 6. So we would be voluntarily, as Ann said, putting ourselves back where we couldn't get out.
Yeah. That's the Dirk Schiemann book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the other things to notice here about 2 is that, if we come in on the bar, the 7 and 8 are stripped. So if he's gonna use, so he's got like 4 builders, if you count the 7 and 8 point, to point on the 5. But other than the 6-1, or double ones, I guess, or double threes, but okay, there's a few that are joker type rolls. Other than 6-1 though, he's gonna probably break the 7 or 8 point, giving you a return shot, particularly if you also step up. So, here, black has the advanced anchor. You really need the advanced anchor. Going to the 2 may be a little bit safer, but it doesn't get you the advanced anchor. We've seen this before. I think it was in this book, or maybe it was a different one, but if you come here, even if you get hit off the 5 point and point, you still have the chance to come in and make the 3 point, which is the best advanced anchor you can get, given that you couldn't make the 5 point. So, I've seen this before. Even though we're stepping up into sort of a gauntlet here. He's got 10 checkers in the zone. It's the best play, and we don't have. That doesn't mean that you'd like to be in this position, but it's better than all the others. It's the best of a bunch of bad options. Now, interestingly, I raised it. We're probably going to get gammoned. Let's see if that's the case. Let's just put these here. I think, whoops. Yams. Yeah, so yeah, and Ray's right. It's a double in a take. Fairly big double, fairly big take. With decent gammon chances, not overwhelming, but decent gammon chances at 20%. Yeah, certainly black is in the stronger position here. Okay. Okay, 5-1 to play. What are we looking at?
You know what I would do.
Well, we're behind in the race, so I wouldn't be running. I
Yeah.
think you just slot the bar point, don't you? Like last.
Yeah,
I would hit and
13.
slot.
hit and slot. Yeah, okay. So what are we looking at here? We're sort of, this is not really, we've got the advanced anchor, so we're not talking about splitting. When we look at the sort of the mid game ideas, with bold safe, we can play boldly. We've got the better board. We've got the advanced anchor. We're behind in the race. All those say to play boldly.
Mhm.
So, and the top 2 plays are going to be slotting or hitting. So which do you think is? So either one, I guess, would be a bold play, because we're giving black a shot. What's the better play?
The
I
hit.
suppose you could do both.
I like both.
You like both? Okay, well, one's a blunder and one's the right play. I'll give you a hint.
I'd just slot.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that slotting is the right play.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because we're behind in the race. If we're not, if we are hit, we've already got the anchor. We actually have a blot here with our better board.
Hmm.
Play aggressively, and we've got a cover for an ace or a 6. If black doesn't roll the 6, and we may well, and if black doesn't roll the 6, we're probably going to double. Because if we get the 6, it's a market loser.
And he needs a 6 to cover the 23 blot.
Yeah.
So that's duped.
Yeah. 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 So here, the explanation here is, when your opponent has only one man back, slotting the bar point is justified when you are far behind in the race and have an advanced anchor. Well, actually, I think your other one we saw, even if you don't have the advanced anchor, but yeah, if your opponent's up in the race, you want to prime. Blotting your opponent's home board is another argument in favor of slotting the 7 point. Yeah, I think that's true, but it's also true for hitting. The real question is, you hit. Well, here it's hit and slot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And here it's just a slot. So, the real question is, why is
why is
slot?
that so bad? Yeah,
Yeah. And I think the answer here, he doesn't discuss that, because the points that he makes are, you're far behind the race, you're far behind in either case. Blotting your opponent's board is a reason to do either one of those things. Because if you're hit back, that makes the hit less dangerous, or you have an opportunity to come back with with using your better board.
Yeah.
So I would say that's not the best explanation of why one is better than the other. I think the reason one is better than the other is that your better strategy here is the priming strategy. And so now you have either 1 or a 6 to cover if black doesn't hit you. So that makes it even stronger than in the other case we were looking at. You only could get a 6 to make the prime.
Well, I think you got a better chance of making the prime if you do hit him.
Maybe unless you get hit back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it's obviously a big error. So.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it really isn't. Yeah. When you look at it, because this one's a blunder and one's the right play. So it would be nice if we had a clear indication that was. It would be nice if we're crystal clear as to why one was better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And the explanation that is given doesn't really do it for me. So I think that the better explanation is, okay, your best game plan here is
well, when he comes in with a 1-6, you know you made a mistake.
yeah, well there's the 1-6 joker is really bad. Because now you have 2 going back. Of course, a 6 in either case is bad, but actually, I guess a 6, if he throws a 1-6 and you only have the bar slot, he's just going to move this up 1. So it's not like he doesn't have a 1 to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the other thing too is that, with your prime, if you bring this extra checker down, you also have the opportunity to attack, because now you've got 11 checkers in the zone and you've got spares on the 8, 7, and 6. So, maybe you want to attack, depending on what black does, but yeah, but it would be nice if this were crystal clear, because this on its face, this doesn't appear to be a bad move. Bold saves tells you can play boldly. Hitting is a pretty bold play. You do have 10 checkers in the zone, which is not as good as 11, but it's not terrible either. You got 6s and 7s to cover.
Right. And he's got a blot.
Yeah, and he's got a blot in his home board. And you've got an anchor, so not really bad here. Doesn't look bad to me to do that.
Well,
I've got a new mnemonic now. If you slot and hit, it's shit. Slot and hit.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
well,
All right, that's a new. We'll credit that one to you, Joe.
Probably Michi won't put it in any book in the future.
No. Well, he might, but he'd have to pretend he didn't understand it because he gets people angry. He could get away with that.
Probably doesn't translate into Japanese very
Right.
well.
all this is
Blame it
showing.
on Roland Herrera for not telling him that this was not appropriate. Okay, next one.
All this is showing just how bad it is to dump a checker on the ace point. And
Yeah,
point.
that, that's a
It's
good
gonna make it
point.
harder
That
to
may be
roll
part
the
of it too.
prime forward, isn't it? If you put
Yeah.
a checker.
With,
That's a
yeah,
good
with
point.
this structure, yeah, you're really not looking,
If you're not, look, it's not a really clear blitz. It
yeah,
doesn't, it's not wise.
yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm wondering if you had a check, well, it's the same, if you had an extra, oops. If you had an extra checker here, yeah.
Aha,
Now you've got an extra checker in the zone to cover. Well, you're not breaking here. Here, the
Yeah.
problem is you're, you're breaking your midpoint. So it's hard to compare these together, but you do have the extra checker in the zone. 11 in the zone is better for attacking. Yeah, hard to,
Yeah.
hard to draw conclusions from that. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Hmm,
All right, 4-3 to play. So there was seemed like an automatic play, which was my first instinct, and it's wrong. So I'll give you that hint.
well, your
What's
your
the
first
think it's an
instinct
automatic
is
play? Why is it wrong?
making the 5 point is your first instinct,
Yes,
and that's wrong?
and that's wrong.
Okay,
I mean, the other play does look prettier. I would have made the 5.2,
Yeah.
but the other play does look prettier, gives you better distribution.
And what's the other play, Joe?
Bring two down.
2 down, yeah, 2 down to make the 8, 9, and 10 points.
hmm,
And that is the right play. And as it turns out, the sort of automatic play, again, let me pull up the plus plus, but because again, anytime you can make the 5 point, you have to strongly consider it.
Mhm,
Okay, so it's not a blunder on plus plus, so that's good.
mhm.
But here it's not. Now, why? What's the consideration here?
Well, you've got good distribution to make another point. You've
Yeah.
got a blockade, and maybe you can use with one of those numbers on the 8, 9, 10 in combination with the 6, because that's 6. You got 6 checkers on the 6 point. That's bad. You got to use one of them. So
Right.
using it in combo with one of those other guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the reason. That's a very good explanation. Is that here you've got to use your 6. You got 6 checkers on the 6 point. Means you call that breaking the mountain. You really have to do something here, and it's very hard to do it with this distribution
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you want to use this one, so it's basically 6-2. That's all you've got.
Right.
Do that. You're also leaving a blot out here, which would be really bad because if you lose that blot, that's your only really spare. Your strip here, here, and here, midpoint and bar, bonus bar, and then the 8. Unless you get doubles, double 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, or 5s,
Mhm.
you're stuck with these guys here. Now you can make a point with the 8, 4-2, or better, a 5-3 to hit him if he's still there. But when you do that, then you've lost your outfield points.
Mhm.
Whereas this one, as Joe pointed out, you've got these builders to make a point somewhere. If you really want to make a point with the 6 using
Yeah.
from the 6 to unstack this. And now, granted, the 10 and the 9 points are stripped, and if you have to use that to make your point, that's not so great.
Mhm.
But as where they stand now, it's only the 9 point that gives a direct shot. And if you do have to use, you're giving up one blot, which is what you were doing anyway with this with this configuration. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so here this I think is a pretty unusual case where you don't make the 5-point, but it's really just because it's so, this is so awkward.
Mhm.
It's kind of an unusual situation where you've heavily stacked the 6-point. And that big of a stack is going to cause you some problems. And it's very, and with this, with this distribution, it's very hard to unstack the 6-point from here.
Mhm.
There's just no place for it to go, obviously, unless you get doubles. Or a 6-2. So, whereas here, there are a lot of numbers that both unstack the 6 and make a good point. And some of them will leave a blot, but you much better chance of unstacking the 6 from this position. Okay, the explanation here is, despite its strength and strategic value, it's sometimes better not to make the 5-point immediately if doing so will sacrifice your flexibility and distribution. So those are the ideas that are important to see here. But again, a kind of a tricky one, unusual. Okay, 5-1. So this is the situation is somewhat frequent. I've seen it a lot, or at least I've made the mistake a lot, and so I see it showing up as errors, because it's sort of counterintuitive, the right thing to consider here. So, with the 1, you should probably see that 6 to 5 is probably what you do with the 1.
Mhm.
But the question is, what do you do with the 5? And I think well, first of all, you could hit. Why wouldn't you want to hit here? Hitting is going to be wrong. There's a very simple reason why.
Nowhere near got enough checkers.
Yeah, you've only got 8 in the zone.
Mhm.
Mishi's proverb, attacking with 8 is weak, attacking with 10 is strong.
Mhm.
It's a good one to remember. So if you have 8 in the zone, there's no, unless you're desperate or there's absolutely nothing else to do, you're not going to want to attack there. Now you do have the better board, so that would be sort of a reason you'd be more inclined, where it's not going to be as terrible as it would be otherwise, but it's the wrong idea. It's really, you're going to move the 5 from here or the midpoint. So which is the right one from which to move the 5?
I'd unstack the midpoints. I don't think you're giving all that many more extra shots. If you leave it on the 14, you're giving 13 hits, aren't you?
Yeah, you could draw all 3s, 11 3s, and a 2-1, so that's 13.
We're quite a, oh, no, it is, no, I'm wrong. It's quite a bit more, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you bring the checker down from the 15, so then you've got something to start making a
Yeah,
prime
yeah.
with
That's true. But
without,
so here
getting hit.
you do have fewer chances of getting hit. You're looking at a 6-3
It's a lot fewer, isn't
or a
it?
5-3 or a 6-2. So there's six rolls that hit here versus 13 that hit there. So certainly more, giving them more chances here. But when you said more chance to make it a prime, that's not really true here, because in either case you're bringing 1 extra spare down to make the bar point. Whether it's here or here, it's just an extra checker. Because if you put it here, then you can't use the 8 to make the prime.
Mhm.
But it's not as flexible as having one on the 10 point.
Well, yeah, you can't make the 9. So from that perspective, that's true.
Hmm.
So what is the key?
I don't know, it's, obviously it's not, I'm not right, but I do that. I do it anyway.
Well,
I
so
would have done it too. It's looking like it's not right, but I would have done 15-10.
yeah, that's what I've typically done, and I've been trying not to do that because it's turned out to be wrong. Uh, yeah, so I mean, it's 6 to 5. That's should be pretty much automatic.
Mhm.
The interesting thing too is that, and 13 to 8. Um. Part of it too, I think, if we do get hit, black is gonna, unless he gets double threes, black can't produce an inner board point. And we're gonna come in, we should come in fairly easily. Although I've rolled a lot of double sixes from the bar recently, so that's annoying, but we should come in fairly easily. Maybe make an advanced anchor. So, it's not terrible to get hit here. Having the extra spare in the 8 is always helpful. We have a chance of, we can't make the nine. Well, actually, we could make the 9 with the 6-4, but we could make it the 10 or 11 using this spare, or we can make the bar, or we can make an inner board point. So the flexibility here is much better, and this is a function of unstacking your midpoint.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's kind of the main thing here. Is it's better to unstack and risk that checker.
You're
and-
unstacking and putting it onto a strip point, which is really a good thing to do.
Yeah, you create a safe spare. Whereas, here it's a blocked and it's not really safe, and it has its problem. Now I wonder if we change this to this position, now getting hit is a little bit more dangerous. And I would think that now it's much closer. Yeah, now it's kind of a drawback or a draw on that one. I was going to say the interesting thing I found out here. So this is the best play. Do all these plus plus. Actually, the second best play is not the safe play. It's just moving this up. That's even better than. Well, that's interesting too. That's better than this, which is a completely meaningless play. Going from the 24 to 23, there's no reason to do that. It doesn't help anything. That's even better than bringing this one in and splitting. So the kind of the default play is actually the fourth best play here, which I kind of find is very interesting that is, because all these other plays, you're leaving this one out there as a direct shot. So, but it's really this one movie here. Yeah, it's really sort of emphasizes the importance of, okay, unstacking the midpoint, bringing that
right.
spare into where you really want it to do some damage, to create, strengthening your board or your prime or something. Interesting thing, because again, my automatic play was to move this one around out of danger, since we went to the trouble to put in the outfield. But as it turns out, it's better to bring one down. Okay, last one for today. Oh, I should read the explanation. I'll read the explanation. So he says in the opening phase, you'll only achieve a flexible and mobile position if all of your checkers are well distributed. Always look for a chance to improve your distribution, even if it means leaving a few extra shots. Yeah. So that's a good theme here too, is last couple we shouldn't have the distribution. Leaving good distribution is important, particularly when your opponent doesn't have a board. And it's worth the extra shots. And now if your opponent did have a board, then you need to play a little more safely. And then again, that goes back into the bold safe idea here. We have the better board. We can play a little more boldly. Getting the better distribution is worth the sacrifice. When we didn't have the better board, when they were the same, then it was kind of a draw as to which one you did. All right. Last one for today. 6-1. So I'll give you a hint. This is your 6.
Thank you.
In case anyone couldn't figure that one out, that is the 6. Question now is where's the 1?
Well, I don't find that obvious that that's the 6. You could
Good for Ray.
8-8-7 and 24-18.
Okay.
I'm not maybe wrong, but I don't see the 6 as quite as obvious as you suggested.
Okay.
But what I
Well,
said,
I'll give you a
not.
hint. That's a blunder. So, but yet Ray
No,
points out, that, yes, you can make the bar point with the 1 instead of the 6. However, I'll give you the hint that that is the right play. And the question then is, what do you do with the 1? And it's right for a number of reasons. You know, it brings an extra checker into the zone. Is, you know, probably the main one. It doesn't leave 2 blots, and I guess that should be enough. But the question then now is, you know, what do you do with the 1?
You slot the 5.
What do you say, Ann?
You slot the 5.
Slot the 5, okay. Okay, that's 1. It's always, well, not always, usually good to do that. Actually, that was one of Michi's proverbs. When you have a chance, slot the 1 with an ace, slot the 5. Didn't get that much play, but it's true. And black has not split. If black were split, you probably wouldn't do that. So, but that's 1. You could play it safely 9-8, or you could split. So when you're going to split, what should you do? Or when you could split, what should you do?
What do you mean when you're going to split?
Well, anytime you have a chance to split,
Yeah.
you want to consult, what I'm getting at is you want to consult the splitting rules.
Right.
And those usually will help you.
good.
You just saw one where it didn't help, and sometimes it doesn't help. But here is a case where it should help. So if we remember the splitting rules, first reasons to split, if
Yeah, they
black
don't
is
apply.
split or black is an advanced anchor, that would be, which black doesn't. So that's not a reason to split. If we were well blocked, that would be a reason to split. We are not well blocked. If black had stripped his 8-point, that would be reduced it. So that's not true.
If we were getting primed, and that's not true.
Yeah, what the true if we're getting primed, if there was a priming formation. What are reasons not to split? Well, if black has 10 or more checkers in the zone. Well, black has 10 checkers in the zone. There's a reason. If black is in a blitzing formation, which means you have stacked points, black has a stacked 6 and a stacked 8. So those are signs that you shouldn't split.
Right.
So I would say, okay, I'm not going to split into that. I'm going to go either 6-5 or 9-8.
Right.
And
the answer is.
You want to see the answer? Does anyone else agree with Ann that the idea is to split? Oh, I'm sorry, the idea is to slot, not split.
I agree with Ann.
Yeah.
That's what I would.
Go, Joe.
And Ann is correct. Oops, although this one didn't show up. Oh, you know what? This is the wrong
I'm not.
I forgot to move the 6 back. Here we go.
Oh. Okay. 6. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so here, splitting is the wrong idea. Playing it safe is not terrible, but it's the wrong idea as well. We have 10 checkers in the zone. We again, it's distribution, and this is the correct play. Now, making the bar point with the 8 is also the wrong idea.
That was Raymond's suggestion.
That's a
Yeah.
dreadful one.
Because
Dreadful.
you're leaving this unstacked, let's see, this play leaves it unstacked, and now you've got, now you've got two blots. Not the best. Here you've come out, you've left two blots, and now you got, ones, fours, and sixes to hit back, and then sevens and eights.
Just too many.
Yeah, it's too many.
What's
know,
after the correct play, what's the pip count after the correct play?
We're up 5.
Mhm.
Yeah. So here unstacking is well, sliding the 5 point is the right move. Let's see what our author says. He says, don't automatically split your back checkers when your opponent has heavily stacked attacking points, especially if you have more constructive alternative. Okay, well, that's a he's not aware of the splitting rules, so it's much better to go through the splitting rules.
Yeah.
And because this is a case where it's pretty clear from applying the splitting rules that you don't want to split here. If you have an alternative. Now, it isn't terrible to split because splitting even into a blitzing structure is not terrible if you're splitting to the 2 point.
Don't
Best
tell
thing
me
to do
that.
is hit you. But it does hit you, but it does give black some decent plays. Like a 4-1, double 4s, double 5s, and so forth, double 6s even, that he wouldn't have otherwise. But again, if you know the splitting rules, don't split into this when you have an alternative. And again, always look to drop a checker 6 to 5 when you have a 1, because it's often the right play.
Mhm.
Because if you get away with it, you can get a very strong position. And again, only when black, if black had split here, then it's not. It's a safe play.
Aha.
Even with this, even having split though, sliding is not terrible. 0.05, that's, you wouldn't do that, but that's not terrible.
Mhm.
You're splitting again, splitting is not, even though the splitsing structure, it's not terrible going from 1 to 2. Stepping up farther is a little bit worse, but all right, so that is it.
So,
Okay,
so
thanks,
Gary,
Gary.
go ahead, Ann.
No, I just said thanks.
Yes.
Gary, you mentioned splitting rules. Is that something I missed? Is there a sheet with splitting rules?
Yes, well, that comes from opening concepts.
Okay.
Michi, and actually it's if you have the spreadsheet from the opening concepts book, it's actually not something that Michi did in his book. Although he did it when he went into back checker strategy, which is his second book. One of the things that Michi does in his first book is he comes up with all these proverbs, which are great proverbs.
Yeah.
I thought he could have organized it a little bit better by combining certain things. So some things that I did, things like the 5 point is better than the 4 point is better than the bar point. That's something that's easier to, even though it's more complicated, it's easier to remember.
Mhm.
And then he gave a number of proverbs that related to splitting, but they were all they weren't focused as to
Yeah.
the splitting rules. So for me, it's easy to remember the splitting rules, even though there are like 5 or 6 rules that apply to splitting. They're easier to me to memorize them as splitting rules rather than 6 different proverbs.
Yeah.
They're all flat fixed in together. So if you
Gotcha.
have, if you don't have it, I can send you the things that I have that identify the splitting rules. And actually, I made a chart mapping some of Michi's proverbs to the splitting rules. And also, we went. Mochi devoted a whole chapter to his kind of splitting rules when he evaluated attacking structure versus priming structure, or blitzing structure versus priming structure.
Mhm.
And Michi mentions and provides maybe one example of, so he didn't really give it. He mentioned it, but he didn't go into it a great deal. So if you want to understand that, it's better to go to Mochi's book. He gives a whole chapter to it, whereas Michi gives a couple paragraphs.
Mhm.
But that's, that's part of it too. But to me, the whole, it's easier to remember all the splitting rules together. And then anytime that you want to split, or that you're thinking that maybe you want to split, you can just, pull those rules up and kind of evaluate it. And most of the time they give you some help.
Mhm.
Not always, as we had an example today where they really weren't, there were other considerations that kind of overruled things, but generally those are pretty good. So again, those go back to the Michi lessons, and then the Michi spreadsheet that I put together with the summary, and there was another thing. So if you don't have that, I can send that to you.
Yeah, I joined after you did that, so I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, so I'll send those to you. Okay, very good. Good
Bye.
stuff.
Good job.
Thank you very much, Gary.